was another massive call from Nuno Espírito Santo yesterday. It's not going to grab the headlines in the newspapers and everything that the dropping of James Ward-Prowse did. In many respects, that was the least of the decisions he had to do. I think that was a pretty safe decision to make. He had to do it to improve the energy in midfield. But also, I think that was quite an important one in terms of messaging from the fans, because whilst James Ward-Prowse wasn't totally to blame for everything that was wrong under Graham Potter, he was very much the poster boy for it, and he did seem to have got to a point where he was undroppable. I thought that was a safe one to do. In many respects, actually, leaving Jean-Claire Todibo out of the team wasn't that big a deal either. He wasn't actually in the team, let's be fair. The big thing about it is that he's cost £35 million. I think it's safe to say 2 games in, and since it was said that he's been dropped, he has been pictured in at least 2 training sessions as well. So he's fit. If the manager wanted to use him, he would have used him, certainly. I don't think he does. But the big call that I thought he made yesterday was when it came time to substitute Niclas Fullkrug, and by the way, he was that bad yesterday that I thought, you could have substituted him at any time, really. Nuno didn't choose to go for Callum Wilson. Nuno went for Callum Marshall. Now, this was a really, really tough game for all the players, let's be fair. Arsenal, absolutely brilliant. And just the worst team at the worst time, or whatever, the best team at the worst time, if you want. Away from home. I know we'd won there the last couple of years, but they are a machine. Arsenal are just a machine. But for him to choose to go for Marshall, I thought was a really good thing for him to do, but very significant as well. I liked what Nuno said about Marshall after the game, which was he said he's really good. He spots gaps. He can find space. We really like him. We're going to use him more in the future. He's got a good eye for goal. In many respects, in his short time at West Ham, he's walked the walk without talking the talk. Whereas, sounds a bit riddled, that, doesn't it? Sounds a bit cryptic. What I mean by that is Graham Potter came in. Graham Potter said, I'm going to use youth. And I guess to an extent he did when he used Ollie Scarles. But, 2/3 of a, which is pretty much what he had in total, 2/3 of a season of West Ham career, I think it was hard for him to say that he'd really incorporated youngsters into the West Ham team. Nuno, very, very different. He's straight away, he's just doing it. He's incorporating Potts. He's put Marshall in there now. The youngsters were on the bench as well. Scarles was on the bench. It's looking good. And as I said, you've got Juff there, who's 20 years of age, going to be learning. I thought that was his first stinky game. I think he's been really good in all the others. He's going to have them. It's just going to happen. I've said this from the moment I saw him play. This season is going to be a learning curve for him, and he's going to have games like that. Wouldn't be surprised if he's outstanding in the next game. Magassa, a little bit different. He's going to take a little while to adjust to it, and to a lesser extent, Fernandes. But Fernandes is sort of used to the pace of English football in that sense. But if you're going to start playing these younger players, you're just going to have to accept that they're going to make mistakes while they learn on the job, and I think they'll be better for it. So there's excuses for them. One player there's not an excuse for is Niclas Fullkrug. And I don't want there always to be like a poster boy or a scapegoat for what's wrong at West Ham. Because I actually thought, let me just say this, I thought he was all right at Everton. There was a lot of people who thought he was really bad. I thought he won a decent amount of flick-on headers. And I thought it was a tactic that seemed to be working. In this game, it didn't work. And he just wasn't very good. And I think, unlike some of the youngsters I've just mentioned, you can appraise him, because we're not just appraising him under his time with Nuno, we're appraising him basically, this is now the 3rd manager. He spent a lot of the time injured, and I think we hoped, because he had a pretty good pre-season, that he was going to be a lot better this season. And I think he's okay, don't get me wrong, but if West Ham, and Nuno in particular, are not absolutely manically looking through every potential signing that we can make as a striker for January, I'd be very, very surprised, because we looked really bad yesterday. I thought defensively we looked better. I thought Mavropanos was just brilliant, just getting better all the time. I was really pleased that we didn't capitulate. That's, as I say, that tsunami of corners. It never really happened. We looked okay. I thought Areola was quite assured of his punching. And as I say, I thought defensively, we looked pretty good. In fact, I can make the case that we may well have gifted them both of their goals. We did okay. We weren't able to spring any counter-attacks, and just Fulkrug was unable to secure any of the ball that was played up to him. And I think we've now seen enough of him. We've seen enough of him in the Premier League, and we've had enough time to look and think, well, actually, this guy's just not going to make it for us. I think Gio said something to me on our last player rating show, and he said he thought Jared Bowen was missing Antonio. And he doesn't mean the Antonio now. He doesn't mean 35-year-old Antonio who's, going to struggle to get match fit. I think he means sort of beast mode Antonio. I think he means that strong player who's going to drift out wide, who's going to make runs, late runs into the box, who's going to be a menace, who's going to be a handful for defenders. Because say what you want about Fulkrug, he is not a handful for defenders. And I want to sort of make this point now, because there'll be some people that say, well, hold on a second, that was Saliba, that was Gabriel. Well, okay. But actually, I think in the main, I also thought Keane and Tarkowski handled him quite well. Then you can think, well, hold on, that's Everton, they're quite good. Well, actually, when he came on as a sub against Crystal Palace, I didn't think he was particularly good then either. And actually, you're going to start working your way through the central defensive partnerships of the league. You might find 4 or 5 teams where he might be able to dominate the central defence. That's not going to be enough. Now, I do actually think Fulkrug will be better than we saw against Arsenal. I really do. And I think up to the point where we get to January, I do think Nuno is going to use him, because he's probably the closest thing we've got to the type of striker he wants. But he ain't close enough. And I think when you're struggling to physically secure the ball, which he was, then you're going to need something else. And that's something else. I just don't think Fulkrug's got it. You're going to need that. I like to look at a player and think, what's their X factor? And the truth of the matter is, I don't know what Fulkrug's X factor is. I think he's a steady player. And I think with really, really good players around him, you'll probably see better from him. But a steady player in a counter-attacking team, I'm not quite so sure. You're going to need to see a little bit more than that. Where's the X factor? Well, he hasn't got one. Well, in many respects, Antonio had 2. I mean, he was had a pretty crap first touch. His shooting could often be iffy, but he was ridiculously strong and he was fast. And I don't see either of those attributes from Fulkrug. I think he's probably got a good shot, but we're not going to see enough of it. We're not seeing him in positions enough to shoot, and I'm not sure that he's going to be the striker that Nuno wants. As I say, I don't think he's going to be I want to make this point. I don't want him to become the scapegoat. I don't want him to become the poster boy. I don't think he's going to be as bad as Ward-Prowse. Because I think the problem was, when we were watching Ward-Prowse perform badly in West Ham's midfield, we were able to look and say, well, what about him? He's better. What about him? He's better. I think at the moment, to start games for West Ham, I'm not looking at that bench and thinking there's loads of players better than Niclas Fullkrug. I think he'll be okay to get us up to January, but I think he just needs to be replaced. And look, he's not going to be the first, and I was going to say won't be the last. I hope he is the last striker that West Ham have bought, and it's not worked out. We're really, really bad at this stuff, which is why Antonio did so well over such a long period of time. He was a winger. He was never meant to be the striker. Honestly, I think it's no coincidence that the other guy that looked really, really good up front for us in recent years, if you want to call it recent years, was Arnautovic, actually, because, again, he was another one. He came in, played so much of his career, his time at Stoke on the left wing. We bought him as that. He started for West Ham on the left wing. Moisey came in, turned him into a striker, played him up front with Lanzini behind it. It worked. And then he did the same with Antonio. So we're really bad at actually buying the actual striker to fit in and do the job. We're really bad at this stuff. And I can only really hope that Nuno's got his eye on somebody and somebody that can do it. I've no doubt we're going to be linked with so many different strikers over the next, October, November, December, the next 3 months, right, until we get to that transfer window. I hope West Ham have learnt their lesson. I think we're in a really bad position. I was annoyed yesterday, and as I mentioned, I wasn't annoyed with Nuno. I wasn't annoyed with the team. I was annoyed with the ownership, just because Nuno should be allowed a certain amount of breathing space where he can come in and maybe not pick up points against the likes of Arsenal, but it becomes important because of what happened before. Because, as I've mentioned, West Ham are suffering because the last two appointments, it's Lopetegui and it's Graham Potter, and then the decision, if it was a decision or whatever, it's basically either a decision not to do business till late in the window or it's incompetence, whatever, whichever one it is. But I think that's really hurt us as well. We can't afford to do that in January. We're going to have to get to January, and then what we're going to have to do is make sure that we do this business early. Whoever it is, whether it's the loan or whatever it might be, we've got to get it done early. We've got to do it. We've got to make sure whoever comes in hits the ground running. But for me, with Fulkrug, I'm done. I want to see something else. I want to see someone else come in. I do think he'll score between now and Christmas, by the way, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. And I think we need to get somebody who's going to probably... We're looking to build partnerships, right? And I think Wan-Bissaka and Bowen, not so much in that game, but I think they're a good partnership. They showed it last season. Juff and Somerville, I think, are going to be a good partnership. I hope we can build a partnership at centre-back. Hope we can build partnership in central midfield. But striker's really important. You know, in this system, he's going to have to link well with the number 10. He's going to have to link well with Jarrod Bowen, as we've already discussed. And he's, you know, and in many respects, he's going to have to be able to read what Juff and Somerville are doing on that other side. I just don't have faith that he's going to do it. And it's something that Michael said very, very early this season, Michael Levy Jr., when we were doing our videos. And he said he didn't think that... He wasn't sure it was because Fulkrug had lost some weight, but he just didn't think that he was physically at it as much. And that's the thing. You get a big... You know, that's the whole thing. He's a big effing German and all the rest of it. Well, I guess he is, but maybe not big enough, maybe not strong enough, because if that is what you are setting your X factor as, that you're physical and you're going to knock people about and all that type of stuff, he's just not really doing it. He's not physically imposing enough. And if the system's not going to get him into dangerous positions quickly enough, then yeah, I just think we need to roll the dice. Need a new striker. That's what I think about that. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll be into. Look, we've got a couple of things we're going to do. We've got 2 weeks now, so we've got the international break, so there'll be a few different videos. So, yeah, maybe get some ideas of videos that you'd like us to do, things you'd like us to discuss. Put those in the comments. I'll read through those later on today. Let me know what you think about the striker as well. Oh, and before I go, this is your last chance. It closes later on today. Sunday is our raffle for a signed Jarrod Bowen shirt, a signed Jarrod Bowen armband, and a signed Conference League programme from Prague, which again has been signed by Jarrod Bowen. The tickets are £5 each, but if you buy 2 tickets, you get a third one for free. The link's in the description below. Go and check it out, please. Just have a little look around, have a little click, and if it's something you fancy, then we'd really appreciate it as a great way for you guys to support Hammers Chat. Right, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Let me know what you think. Give me some video ideas for the remainder of the week. Let me know what you think as well about this striker situation, but certainly reading through the comments yesterday, obviously I mentioned that I would be talking about Fulkrug and a striker today. I've sort of already gauged it. You know, I think a lot of people are fed up with it, really, and would like to see us do something else. We should have done it in the summer. That's the thing. This was... I'm past... I understand that Potter got the blame for it, but yeah, I'm a bit sick of... Look, Potter's gone now. I'm a bit sick of him and McCauley getting the blame for stuff that went wrong, really, because let's be fair, you know, the West Ham board were in charge long before Potter was, and you know, we do have an owner who likes to get involved and likes to take control of transfers and all the rest of it. And let's be fair, if he'd have really wanted to sign a striker, he would have done so. I don't want that anymore. Just want Nuno to identify his striker, pick his striker, bring him in, get him, hit the ground running. It's going to be really tough for the remainder of running. He's got a really, really tough job now, Nuno. It'd be interesting to see what he does now, because there is so much pressure on him. The next, whatever they are, 4 or 5 games are crucial. And ordinarily, these 5 games in the season shouldn't be that important, but they are, because we're so disadvantaged by the points tally in the Premier League. And I'm not going to make any bones about it. I'm watching a lot of these teams and sort of praying that they lose. A lot of them, you know, the ones I think might be down there at the bottom, because us just clawing our way out of it might not be enough. I think we need some other teams to be crap as well. So I've sort of, sorry to say, wishing a bit. I have got to be honest. I'm wishing a bit of misfortune on some of the other teams. Has to be said. There you go. Anyway, link in the comments below to the raffle, and I'll catch up with you lot tomorrow.